Good morning, everybody. MikesMMAPicks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show brought to you by MMA Oddsbreaker as well as BetDSI. We are here for UFC 273. Nothing's going to stop us now. We're headed to Florida, Jacksonville. Packed crowd. 6 out of 12 bouts on this respective card are expected to finish. We might see some unlikely finishes as well. Looking forward to breaking down this card where we start with our first fight of the night. We've got Julio Arce taking on Arce-Santos. Now, if you spent yesterday watching the weigh-ins, you'll notice that Julio Arce came in the last fighter to the scale. This is somebody who once fought at 145 pounds, now has dropped back down to bantamweight. He's taking on a Arce-Santos who hasn't competed in a few years. Arce looked as rough as a fighter could look on the scale. He missed weight by only a half a pound, but you could tell he put his heart and soul into that weight cut, came up a little bit short. Now, is that going to affect his performance today? Possibly. What's interesting here is Arce-Santos is a very aggressive fighter, will throw spinning attacks in a phone booth, basically. He's a fighter who throws caution to the wind, who will try to advance on his opponent. And Julio Arce is a fighter who has a background in boxing, who is a Tiger Schulman's fighter, somebody who is a fighter with decent footwork as well. He's going to have to stay evasive in this larger octagon. The thing is, though, I was listening to some Julio Arce interviews in the lead up to this fight. He's coming off of a brutal knockout loss to Song Yadong, and he is looking to be very aggressive in this fight. And that is a dangerous situation here, especially coming off of that the knockout loss and the really rough weight cut here at minus 185. I think that line is a little bit wide. I would look to get a better price on Arce if I was going to back him here. He will be my pick. This fight, both of these guys tough as nails. It may not go the distance. I saw yesterday, fight doesn't go the distance was hovering around plus 130, plus 127, plus 122 at some books. I'm going to be picking Arce here. I think that he's the more proven commodity, and also he's one of those fighters who will fight hard for your money. I was at the Shaman Moraes fight, and there was blood all over the octagon, and he does not give up. Neither of these fighters will give up. I suspect the crowd's going to be a big factor here, and I'm going to be picking Arce, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him get this done inside the distance. Arce-Santos, though, he's a bit of an unknown, to be honest, after being out for so long. So give me Julio Arce inside the distance. Good morning, Sergio. Great to have you here, pushing us along as we navigate this landscape here. A little under the weather, the entire family is, and we're pushing through. Nothing's going to stop us, man. Evan Dolan, good morning, sir. Great to have you join the team here today, where we take a look at now the second fight of the night, where we have another fighter who missed weight in Kay Hansen. She is a fighter who is dropping down from 125 pounds, 7-5 overall record, which is concerning here, taking on a Piera Rodriguez, who you talk about somebody who will fight hard for your money. She's going to go out there and put it all on the line. Piera Rodriguez, she is a diminutive fighter who throws hooks and is a very aggressive fighter in there, which could be to her detriment here against Kay Hansen, who's going to be looking for takedowns in the larger octagon. Kay Hansen is not, how can I put this politely? Striking is not her game. She's going to look to put Rodriguez on her back. And you look at the weight cut and the time on the scale yesterday. a dejected look on Kay Hansen's face, but she did not look drained at all. I think this is one of those cases where she's going to come in and try to use that extra weight to her advantage here. It's just a matter of, does she have enough in the tank to go 3 hard rounds? Piera Rodriguez on the Contender Series, she hit a bit of a wall in the 3rd round as well. So this is one of those fights where I am personally staying away. I do not see an edge on either side of this fight. Kay Hansen, we know she has an eating disorder and she struggled with weight in the past. She's only 22 years old, so this is a person who's still coming into her own. 7-5 overall record. Very, very tough to trust here. It's not like you're backing somebody who's a winner. You're backing somebody who's basically just about a 500 fighter here, and a little sketchy spot as far as I'm concerned. I would want a better number on Kay Hansen. I will pick her here because I think that she's going to use this extra weight to her advantage, and Piera Rodriguez is a very aggressive fighter, so I think that she's going to bring the fight to Hansen, and that's going to lead to her detriment here. So the pick is going to be Kay Hansen, but a sketchy fight. Next up, wow, you have Alexei Oleinik, the boa constrictor, 44 years old, 46 submission victories, taking on a Jared-Vanderaa who tipped the scales yesterday at 266 pounds. This is a fighter who 29 years of age, but you look at his professional record. My goodness gracious, my friends, 12 wins, 7 losses. This is a fighter who, again, is not he's not a winner. And he could potentially put himself in a situation where the fight gets ended via submission. Now, the thing is, though, you're running up against the clock here with a fighter who, 44 years of age, somebody who's coming to the end of their road, and he's taking on a Jared-Vanderaa who's a massive, massive heavyweight. The guy against Arlovsky out there, very close fight last time out, but I think it also speaks volumes that Vanderaa wasn't able to take Arlovsky out. That is concerning. By the way, Andrei Arlovsky has a fight that was just booked recently. That fight is going to end up on the fridge. I can promise you that. Next up. But prior, I almost lost my train of thought there because we were talking about the fridge and what fights end up on there. I'll be posting a picture of the fridge later this week for everybody. My pick in this spot, I don't think this fight is going to go the distance. Odds suggest that as well. But my pick is going to be Alexei Oleinik. I think that he's going to put himself in what early will look like a bad situation. Vanderaa is going to end up overcommitting, and then Alexei Oleinik is going to lock up a submission. I think that isn't too far-fetched to see that in Florida. Oleinik had the full camp for the Latifi fight. Got to roll with Alexei Oleinik here. And I believe he's you're getting pretty darn close to dog odds in that spot. Let's see. We got you're getting getting over COVID. Excellent. Well, wishing you well in your neck of the woods. Let's see. How much do weight misses discourage us from our picks? You know, they do play a role, but they don't tell the whole story. They're a small piece of the puzzle. All right. You know what? As far as I could potentially see Hansen getting finished in this spot, I'll be picking Hansen, but this is a dangerous spot here. Let's get back to the breakdown here where we have a fighter who is there's not much tape on MikesMMAPicks. MikesMMAPicks, you see more of him in the corner at Team Alpha Male than you do see him competing. Interesting bout here against Mickey Gall, who you look at fighters who leave some of themselves out there and don't empty their tank. Mickey Gall did not commit in his last bout against Alex Morono. That was a concern of mine watching Mickey Gall. You never know what you're going to get. He's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of fighter. In this specific spot, it's interesting. Mickey Gall spent some time working on his stand-up, came out for the Diego Sanchez fight, looked dialed in for the first minute or so, and then completely fell off the map, gassed, had no get-up game whatsoever, and was just stuck. That is a cause for concern here. I like the number for Gall if you're getting, plus 170, plus 155-ish. But he's a fighter who you can't necessarily trust. And MikesMMAPicks, this is a fighter who's bounced around between different weight classes, somebody who is still, both of these fighters, 30 years of age. So this is a fight where I'm going to sit back and I will be watching this fight with a cup of tea. But when you ask me to break down this fight, how do I see it playing out? I see Mickey Gall coming out early, dialed in, and also I see him taking advantage of being in this electric atmosphere, especially early. So the pick is going to be Mickey Gall here. I just don't trust MikesMMAPicks, and I don't trust either fighter. But if you're going to tell me to pick a fighter who I don't trust and take a look at their odds, Mickey Gall's the fighter that, in my eyes, is going to be the one to pull out a victory in this spot. I also like the camp move for Mickey Gall as well. You want to test yourself out there, and it seems like that's what he's doing. Oh, goodness gracious. Look at this. We've got Aspen Ladd taking on Raquel-Pennington. This fight, it makes me wonder if Aspen Ladd, if they let that fight against Macy Chiasson move forward, how does that fight play out? In most cases, I believe Aspen Ladd takes Macy Chiasson down and finishes her in that spot. And then what type of odds would we be looking at against Raquel-Pennington here? Raquel-Pennington is coming off of a submission victory over Macy Chiasson. Macy Chiasson, by the way, is one of those fighters who does not improve fight to fight. And Pennington, it's interesting. I think her claim to fame, to be honest, is being the significant other of Dern-Torres. I don't put too much stock into Raquel-Pennington's skill set and her fighting style. She is somebody who plods forward, very unathletic. Aspen Ladd, on the other hand, also unathletic, somebody who what this is going to come down to is who maintains top position, who is able to establish top position. And I think that whoever does that first is going to end up winning this fight. Raquel-Pennington does have the better hands here. She seems to be the more mentally composed fighter. You watch the Norma Dumont fight and others. There have been so many red flags on the side of Aspen Ladd, but also in this spot, you're getting a fighter. There is a bunch of recency bias here, and it is warranted on behalf of Aspen Ladd and fading Aspen Ladd. But I'm going to be picking Aspen Ladd in this spot. She not only looked great on the scales, but also has the better ground game here, and something that sticks out in my head, and this whole fight only happened 2 years ago. Holly Holm was able to hold Raquel-Pennington against the cage, against her will, for the better part of 15 minutes. And that is a disturbing sight to see. At this stage in Raquel-Pennington's career, who's in her mid-30s now, you have to wonder, what the heck is going on in that camp to let that happen to you. Raquel-Pennington, I can't pick her in this spot. I'm gonna be leaning towards Aspen Ladd, and I'll be picking Aspen Ladd in this spot. I think the odds are a little off here, especially if you were able to get a better price on Aspen Ladd. And Raquel-Pennington, we know exactly who she is. Aspen Ladd's only 27 years of age, and she's still developing. The thing is, though, her corner, if she does not heed the advice of her corner, throw everything out the window. And we saw what she was able to do when she turned it on against Norma Dumont late in the fight. Granted, she did drop the first 3 rounds rather convincingly, and that is a red flag. But I'll be picking Aspen Ladd in that spot. Let's see. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's continue this journey, my friends, where we have Fluffy Hernandez taking on Josh Fremd. Josh Fremd is a fighter who was a favorite against Gregory Rodriguez, LFA fighter, plus 150 underdog in this spot. A fighter who will fight hard for your money, is a very tall, lanky fighter for this weight class. And he's going to have some size and reach. Coming in on short notice, looked in phenomenal shape, taking on Fluffy Hernandez, who, let's be honest, he was getting manhandled by Rodolfo Vieira until Vieira just gassed himself out. And then Fluffy took advantage of that spot and was able to lock up a front choke against Rodolfo Vieira. And Josh Fremd is a fighter who, in this spot, the short notice is a cause for concern here. I think we're going to see a firefight. The odds suggest that this fight ends inside the distance. I think we're going to see a slobber knocker here. Anthony Hernandez, Fluffy's going to have to get inside of Fremd and look to catch Fremd. And I think that eventually is likely to happen here. But I'm not ruling a Fremd knockout out in this case. You watch, the guy is a very brutal fighter. He's somebody who is a savage out there, and he has those long limbs. If you get in the clinch with him, watch out for those knees coming up the middle. Watch out for those elbows. Very dangerous fighter. Also, he is coming out of the same camp as Vince Pichel. So these guys, they might be ready. If you give me a full camp, friend, I would be more apt to pick him in this spot. I think there'll be a lot of underdogs who are live here. Fremd is one of them. Give me Hernandez, though. I think he gets this done inside the distance. Wow. This is another situation. Ian Garry coming in now as a minus 370 betting favorite. I do not understand the hype on Ian Garry. I did watch the regional tape, and I have watched his come up through the regional scene to get where he is now. He tries to talk a great game. He's a young kid, 24 years of age. He might have the body type that could pose problems at this weight class. Taking on a Garry-Weeks who was in there and fought his ass off against Bryan Barberena on short notice, tough as nails, was able to come close to pulling out a victory against Bryan Barberena. Ian Garry, the reach here, the length, the straight punches could come into play. And the length on the ground, too, are some of his strengths here. I really was trying to watch Garry overcome some adversity in his debut. He was getting picked apart, caught by Jordan Williams, and people say, you can toss the octagon jitters out the window. He's going to come in refreshed, ready to go the second fight. I'm not blown away by Ian Garry, and I know some people are, so I'm still trying to see it. And I don't see it. The minus 370 line is a bit wide for me in this spot. I think this fight plays out much closer than the odds suggest. And Garry-Weeks is one tough customer. So I'll be picking Garry hesitantly, just because he's a young, promising prospect, but Garry-Weeks, I believe, is only 28 years of age, right? So he's still coming into his own as well, and he hasn't shown as many holes defensively as Ian Garry is. And I think the confidence of Garry is a double-edged sword in this spot. So give me Ian Garry, but I don't buy this hype. I'm concerned about this. We've got a bunch of comments in here. Okay. After watching the face-off between Fluffy and Fremd, he's picking Fremd to pull the upset. Okay. Weeks is going to look great if Garry can't get any takedowns. Yep. Oh my goodness gracious. Great to have everybody here this morning. Fight Morning UFC 273. Let's continue this journey, my friends, where we have Vince Pichel now as a -120 betting favorite. This line has continued to close. Mark Madsen -110 was originally a significant plus number for the Olympian Mark Madsen here. Now, Mark Madsen, do I think Vince Pichel is going to end up down a round after the first round here? Very likely, very likely. Vince Pichel never really developed his takedown defense throughout his career. I believe it's 24% takedown defense, taking on a Mark Madsen who we know he's able to actually implement a game for mixed martial arts, a wrestling game that's effective. At what cost, though, is that going to come? Now, he could potentially end up 2 rounds here against Pichel, who in the larger octagon, Pichel's going to have to work to stand up. But Pichel's got the much better hands, the deeper gas tank here. And we saw a tweet last night from Vince Pichel, and he knows exactly what's about to happen. He's going to probably get drowned with the wrestling early. And once Madsen starts to fade, Pichel's going to pour it on. And it's just a matter of, in the last 3 minutes of this fight, can Pichel start to land some heavy punches on Madsen and take Madsen out of there? I think that's a real possibility in this spot. It's a very interesting card. If you were to ask me, Madsen being up 1 round, I think that's about maybe -400, 500. In that case, I think that he wins the first round rather convincingly in most spots. The problem for Madsen, though, is he's at a great camp, but you don't want to get away from your strengths. And we've seen situations where wrestlers turn into strikers. How much gas does Madsen have in the tank? Both of these guys are getting up there in age. I apologize, folks. I'm really battling something here. I'm going to ever so slightly lean Mark Madsen in this spot just because he should be up multiple rounds heading into the 3rd round. Now, I think that Pichel, the comeback is on the table. It is on the table here. And you look at the win against Jim Miller, that aged very nicely. The Roosevelt Roberts win, we saw that Roberts isn't who we thought he was. Pichel, it's interesting too, though. His game here is predicated upon getting back to his feet and then creating space. Is Madsen going to end up fading? He might. And the thing is, Madsen's striking defense is a cause for concern. When he's throwing punches, he's not thinking about, I don't see it. The way the punches are coming back at him, there's a possibility that a counter strike ends up hurting him very badly at some point. It hasn't necessarily happened to this point in his career, but Pichel could land a really hard counter strike and knock Madsen out. I'll be picking Madsen, though, in this spot. I think that conventional wisdom would lead one to believe that he should be a rightful favorite here. But dangerous spot. If Madsen had a deeper gas tank and we trusted his striking defense, be a different story. Sorry to be long-winded in that spot. Now, interesting fight we have here where this now is somewhat turning into a people's main event. Mackenzie Dern against Torres. I think the play on this fight was Mackenzie Dern scorecards no action. That originally was around -250. I think it's at like -375 or so now. It's been bet way too high for anybody's liking. Torres yet to be finished. She's been in there with some killers, and the Andrade fight. There have been others where she has not only survived, but she also put on some muscle to a point where she almost, I see Sylvester Stallone when I look at Tecia Torres. It's a very odd look. She's carrying so much muscle, and it hasn't necessarily been successful for her. The way that she fights, she likes to stick and move and look to use footwork to stay evasive. The kicking game, Mackenzie Dern may look to catch one of these kicks. Tecia Torres is not known for her finishing ability, and it's just a matter of, is Dern going to feel the power of Tecia Torres? Is that something that exists? Because Dern is not at Torres's level as far as striking goes, both punching and kicking. But she's a dog, and the way she gets this fight to the mat is likely an unforced error on behalf of Tecia Torres. I think that's a possibility here. I know Torres and Pennington are in the same camp, and they seem to do a lot of CrossFit together, and I don't know how much that's going to help Torres in this spot. I think she's at a disadvantage when it comes to strength, especially on the ground. If this fight hits the mat, very closely lined fight. I think the play was Dern scorecards, no action. I don't trust Tecia Torres to stay evasive for 3 rounds and not have one of her kicks caught and this fight end up on the ground. So I'm going to be picking Dern to win, but Dern is outmatched from a striking standpoint here, and also from a footwork standpoint too. So I understand why people are picking Torres, and especially at dog odds, you see that and you like, oh, that's a nice play, Torres by decision. Ugh. But I think Dern, there's a bit of Dern at plus odds would be worthy. But I'm not touching this fight. The Dern scorecards, no action would have been the play. Wow. Here we are. People's main event here, where we have Gilbert Burns taking on Hamza Chimaev. Gilbert Burns, let's cut to the chase. 35 years of age, fought the who's who, both at lightweight and welterweight, has now basically his home is up at welterweight. He seemed to filled out. We saw at the hotel lobby where the face-off first took place, and you saw the massive size discrepancy. Chimaev, in my eyes, I believe he's the real deal in this spot. I don't like the minus 540 betting price, but the inside the distance lines have been playable, and I don't see this fight going the distance. I think that Burns is going to have to really put himself out there early and go into the fire to win this fight. I don't think he has a chance if this gets within the first few minutes. He's going to be put in a really bad situation. Chimaev, the pace that he puts on is it's something that we rarely see. What he was able to do with Li Jingliang is, we don't see that. We have not seen that in a very long time. And I look at the opponents, the level of opponents that Chimaev has fought, but there's sometimes fighters just jump off the tape, and it's clear as day that that Chimaev is a legitimate prospect. So I am not going to be backing Gilbert Burns in this spot. I think that Chimaev is the play, and it's inside the distance. Gilbert Burns, he's a great guy and has done a lot for the sport. And my heart goes out to everyone who's backing Gilbert Burns in this spot. But I think that it's a very tall order here. And I'm interested to see who Chimaev gets next, because I don't want it to be Colby Covington. I'm a Colby Covington backer, and I think that is a dangerous fight for Colby as well. Chimaev is, in my eyes, the real deal. We'll see, though. We'll see. We've seen hype trains get derailed before. And as far as DraftKings goes, let's see how many points Chimaev is able to put up. And can you imagine the reaction in the arena if Burns is able to catch Chimaev, or if Burns is able to extend Chimaev to a point where Chimaev gasses himself out and then he's able to lock in a submission? That would be something. I don't think it's happening. I'll be picking Chimaev inside the distance. And there's people were saying that Chimaev, he's not going to be able to land a submission because Burns hasn't been submitted before. I think that a submission could potentially be in play, to be honest, because Burns could be rocked out on the feet, and then it wouldn't surprise me to see Chimaev lock something up. Next up, we've got the co-main event of the evening, a rematch. Aljamain Sterling taking on Petr Yan. Petr Yan minus 460 at the betting window. I think this line is a little wide here. Aljamain Sterling plus 340. Rematch. There are a few ways this could go, but Aljamain Sterling, we saw last time out, this fight took place a year ago, basically ran out of gas and committed too much to the striking and wasn't able to get the takedowns. We saw Petr Yan was able to land those trips over and over and over again. And Sterling, I see him making some modifications to his game plan here. I know folks are seeing the success that Sterling had early, but these fighters have been in the octagon together for over 15 minutes. They know what they are on the feet. And Petr Yan, I expect him to get a read on Aljo the longer this goes. And Aljo should commit to a grappling heavy game plan early. I think that you look at the way he is on the scale. I think that we're going to see a grappling heavy approach here from Sterling. He's got to go for broke if he wants to win this fight, because the longer this fight goes, this gets to the 4th or 5th round, I think we see Petr Yan, we know he gets better with time. So you got to capitalize early. There are 3 ways that you can dethrone an elite fighter, and that's what Petr Yan is. And one of them is to catch them early, surprise them. Aljo can do that with the grappling. He was able to land the takedown early in the first fight, but then wasn't able to do much with it. I bet they went back to the drawing board with Sarah Longo there. Number 2, second way to do it, fight the perfect game plan, right? And then number 3 is to extend an opponent and win via weaponized cardio. If you're able to do that, you render your opponent's skill set basically useless. When they're completely exhausted, they can't do much. The problem is, I don't think you can do that against Petr Yan. He tried that the first fight and wasn't able to drown Petr Yan. So Aljo's got to come out grappling heavy early, and I think that that's what we'll see him do. I don't see this fight going the distance. This fight doesn't go the distance. It's hovering around evens at some books now. That's incredible to me. And the other thing is, if you were planning on playing Petr Yan inside the distance at plus 140 or plus 125, etc., there's only a few cents separating Petr Yan inside the distance and fight doesn't go the distance. And if you play the fight doesn't go the distance line, you're covering both sides of the fight. So I'm going to be picking Petr Yan. I think he does get this on inside the distance. I think that fire's going to meet fire, and it's going to be a war early. Sterling, I would not surprise me It would not surprise me one bit to see Sterling end up locking up a submission here and shocking the world. I would not be surprised to see that. I know Petr Yan has some, he's got some great grappling, and the proprioception, his ability to stay balanced on his feet and on the ground and get up and use momentum. It's amazing to watch that. I think that's what makes him great. He's so comfortable in his own skin, and he has so many weapons, Petr Yan. He's an incredible fighter. I think he's a generational talent, but as we've seen before, even generational talents can get dethroned. And I am not ruling out Aljamain Sterling here to shock the world, but I'll be picking Petr Yan inside the distance. Let's head to the main event of the evening. Before we do that, okay. Let's do this. Let's see. Somebody's saying Aljo lost round 1 on all 3 scorecards. Yes, he was knocked down. Okay. Let's get back to this main event of the evening, where we have Alexander Volkanovski taking on Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie plus 480. That is a mind-boggling line. Alexander Volkanovski minus 730. A few years ago, odds on UFC fights were not like this. They've become so wide recently that you really have to pick your spots and play these things carefully. Do I think Chan Sung Jung has a better shot than plus 480 suggests? Yes, a much better shot. Am I going to be going out of my way to play Chan Sung Jung? I don't know. The problem here, it's okay to pass on a play, right? The problem here is Volkanovski is an incredible fighter, and he knows how to win. He's able to put together great game plans and win. The Max Holloway fight, both of them, the way he was able to come back after getting knocked down, impressive. The leg kicks, I think that they could potentially be there, but it would not surprise me to see Chan Sung Jung land a counter strike here and knock Volkanovski out. That would not surprise me one bit. I typically avoid playing massive dogs. There's been I'm living proof that picking your spots and playing some chalk can be successful long term. I'm not going out of my way to play Alexander Volkanovski minus 730. This fight is expected to go to a decision. It's going to be an interesting fight, though, because Chan Sung Jung is a dangerous fighter, and he's also dangerous on the ground, too. Getting up there in age, both of these fighters are, and what's not talked about often, Alexander Volkanovski seems to have overcome the back injury that he sustained prior to the Jose Aldo fight. I remember that being a real issue. He took months off, and Volkanovski here, his confidence is so high. He's got to think that he's invincible, facing and overcoming worst case scenario against Ortega. Stuck in Ortega's best submission attempts and was still able to get through that. But no one is invincible. There are no certainties in this game. If Chan Sung Jung gets this done, I see him doing it inside the distance, but the pick is going to be Alexander Volkanovski. This is another case where conventional wisdom, the tape, the game planning, he's going to have to mind his P's and Q's, though, because Chan Sung Jung coming out of fight ready. We know this is a situation where he's going to put his best foot forward. And there was a quote yesterday from Chan Sung Jung that really, it stuck out to me, and I'm going to pull it up here. It is, as people know, zombies don't run away from anything. And he should be in this fight for as long as it lasts. This is a fighter who was able to have success against the Renato Moicano fight. You saw the way he was able to catch Moicano in that spot. It would not surprise me to see Chan Sung Jung shock the world in this spot. But I'll be picking Alexander Volkanovski. I think that in this situation, you can't fade a great fighter unless you get odds that are going to just blow your mind. And the plus 480 on Chan Sung Jung, that comes pretty darn close to doing that. But I'll be picking Volkanovski in this spot. And want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Remember to go get what's yours. We have made it through the podcast under the weather. My entire family is under the weather today and the past few days. Actually, the past couple of weeks, we've been battling. And remember, if you're going to tell folks, make sure that they're third-party tracked winners. You don't want to go out and be tailing third-party tracked losers. Make sure that you do your homework and take one fight at a time. Pick your spots. Let's go get what's yours, my friends. Let's do this.